Hey guys, is this thing on?
I'm sure I plugged it in. Is that plugged in over there?
Andy, is this thing on?
Check in. 1, 2.
Is this thing on?
Check. I have phantom power. Yay! That's right. Yes.
Welcome to Chicks with Gear, the podcast where three lifelong friends get together to drink some coffee, play some music, and talk about gear and our quest for the most perfect acoustic sound on stage. I'm Deb.
I'm Julie.
I'm Andy.
It's not a chick. He's our resident gearhead, the fabulous Andy Most. Andy!
Julie,
Hey, who do we have in the studio today?
video editor extraordinaire, Mr. Jason Painter.
Woo!
Yes!
Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome,
Appreciate
Jason.
it. Thanks, yeah.
Jason is so excited to have you here today.
All right.
Jason is not only an amazing video editor, but a dear friend.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
met Jason and his lovely wife, Ashley, many years ago, and we've become great friends and
Yes.
also have done a lot of creativity together.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been fun.
Why,
It has
yes, we
been
did.
fun.
Listen to that.
So, Jason, why don't you talk to us a little bit about how you got into being an editor
Yeah,
and
sure.
maybe sort of a little bit of your journey?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I went to art school at Southern Illinois University, which is kind of a mouthful. Southern Illinois University. For graphic design and like a minor in art. So I always liked, the creative arts. I was never a math guy or never was a writer of sorts. So I believe in 2003-ish, somewhere in there, I moved to Los Angeles with a car full of clothes,
Oh, wow.
stereo, of course, and that's about it.
Wow.
Didn't really know what division I wanted to get into. I knew that I wanted to be in back of the camera, not in front of the camera. So when I moved out to Los Angeles, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I figured the best way to kind of narrow it down was to be on set, right? And so I was a PA, production assistant, running around getting coffee and, just sort of exploring the business. So I would go on set and I would work in the art department. Decided that wasn't what I wanted to do. Was in the camera department. And back then we were loading film. Too much pressure.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you're on set, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Right.
You've got the grips, you've got electric, you've got, the art department, you've got the camera department, which I mentioned. And it just nothing resonated. Nothing really caught my eye or nothing really, just didn't speak to me. So one day I was running what we call dailies, which is the daily, footage that you capture while you're on the shoot. And
Are these movies or what are
well,
what are you
yeah,
editing?
I mean, I went into the commercial world. So these were, I guess they call them short movies, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, music videos, but primarily the commercial world. My attention, I don't believe I have enough attention to work on long form.
Right.
Those sometimes take a year, 2 years, 3 years. It just depends if it's special effects and whatnot. So the 30-second genre and the 60-second genre spoke to me the most, Andy. And so I was walking past this edit room and I looked in and I saw this guy, this editor, moving pictures back and forth. And I kind of peered in and didn't really say anything. And so that intrigued me. And it kind of related to a canvas, and from an artistic perspective, and you're working with footage, and so I asked the owner of the production company. I said, "Can I mess around with that machine?" He's like, "Well, it's a $300,000 machine. I don't know if
No.
that's probably." So yeah, she reluctantly said, "Yeah, you can work on some of the director's footage and just mess around with it on your free time." Yeah, which is a huge blessing.
Just couldn't hit the delete button.
No.
That would be foul.
duplicate.
Sounds better than getting coffee for everybody.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, it was interesting from an outside perspective, even though I was, going and getting coffee or whatever I was doing. I mean, it really kind of gave me, the core, the foundation to see it all and understand the process from, shooting all the way to the post-production world, which is what I work in. So like I said, the owner of the production company said, well, yeah, you can work on it at night. And I was very lucky in that sense. But I was always calling the editing company because I didn't know really what I was doing. And there's lots of buttons and lots of, sound gear and, all kinds of, they had like black bursts and things that had to be hooked up and monitors and all these different components that played together. Whereas now we have a laptop, so that eliminated a lot of it.
Was this all analog back then, or was it digital?
It was all analog. So you would literally take like a 3/4 inch tape or a beta or
Listen
a
to
digibeta.
you.
I know. Yeah. Was it analog? Yes, it was.
Highly
Checks with gear.
coachable.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the name of the machine was called an Avid. It was Avid Media Composer, and it was it had a similar interface to Photoshop, which I had learned in college.
Yes.
So it intuitively made a little bit of sense to me. However, the more and more I got into it, I just you get stuck because what did I just do? I just deleted everything. How did that happen?
That's no good.
Yeah.
So back then.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
and again, I'm an amateur editor learning. It wasn't copy paste. Like, how did you do that?
Well, yeah, there was.
Oh, there was.
There was copy paste. I mean, I wasn't working like with film and cutting the film.
Okay.
It was a digital program, but it was analog going into the interface, which was analog, and then you would work with the digital files from there. But yeah, it was analog in and became a digital piece of media. So yeah, I wasn't chopping film. I'm not that old.
Okay, so now I just took all my points away.
No.
Bah, bah, bah.
Oh, yeah, that's that one right there. Oh, no.
But I learned something.
Yeah, right? I'm not as old as I look. So then, I kept calling Avid, which is in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. Is that,
Yeah,
I
good
know
luck
where
with
that
that.
Yeah, on hold for 30 minutes every time. But one of them I was on, and I just kept, because we had free, what do they call that? When something goes down, where you can just talk.
Support.
Yeah, you had support.
All right.
Yeah. And they said, well, when you buy this system, you get a free lesson, a weekend lesson.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yes.
That was a big break. So I asked the owner of the company if I could go on the weekend and take this class. He said, sure, go ahead and take it. So when I was in the class, it was older editors who had cut on film, and they were trying to learn the digital, the world of the new digital world. And so they helped me from the historical aspect of it, and I helped them from the digital aspect.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
That is
Yeah,
so
so
cool.
it was like young. It was a grouping in, and so that was sort of my first the entry into the world of digital editing. But the more I went with the production company and I was cutting little things for them, I realized. Well, at first I thought I was an editor then. I'm like, well, I'm an editor, and I just wasn't. And so I realized that I needed to send out my resume to a bunch of commercial editing houses. And back then we faxed. We didn't email.
I know. I know.
We faxed, and I got 3 phone calls from 3 different editing companies, and I interviewed all 3 of them. The one that spoke to me the most was an actual editor that I had researched, and he edited Wicked Game. With Chris Isaac,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And he had worked with Madonna, Michael Jackson. He had worked with some directors, some high-end directors, David Lynch, David Fincher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So watching his reel and looking at his credits, he was there with the company. So I kind of I had looked at his work and kind of pinpointed him of sorts, found a way to work with him. Now, I didn't get the job as an assistant editor right away. I was still a runner PA within the company, but I was always picking the brain of the assistant editors. How does this work? How do you daisy chain, hard drives? How do you hook this up? What happens if you crash? How do you, and this assistant editor, I think, thought I was a pest. He just didn't want to talk to me because I was asking so many questions, but that's how you learn, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So finally he quit his job, and then his name is Bob Jenkins, who was the person that was my mentor within the world of editing, said, well, let's give Jason a chance.
Oh.
And it was sink or swim. It was swimming with the sharks.
Yeah, I bet.
Because he was very demanding and very meticulous, and you have to be as an editor. If you're not organized, if you, don't, plot out a plan for, the story or the music video, you're a mess. You just doesn't, so editors have to be very organized. So during the course of time, I worked on Men in Black, the music video Men in Black with him.
Wow.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was Will Smith would come in and look at the rough edits. Now, he cut Rhythm Nation for Janet Jackson 5, 4, 3, 2. Yeah. So that got him the job. Will Smith had seen his editing with Janet in that music video, which was a lot of performance,
it was
dance
amazing.
performance, and so I got the opportunity to work with Bob on a lot of high end projects, and it kind of gave me an entry into the A-level works of the commercial world. But a lot of the film directors would want to do the commercials because if they wanted to try out a new lens or they wanted to try out new technology. They could kind of push their way into, and talk the advertising agencies into using that new technology. So it was kind of like practice for their films that they were going to shoot here in the future.
Well, some of the commercials are like little mini films
They are.
now.
They can be. Yeah.
And I mean,
yeah. And if you can convey in 30 seconds or 60 seconds, a story that resonates with the viewers, then you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Like Michael Bay would come in and he would work with him. He worked with a lot of really high-end directors back when they were growing. And now, they're 25 years later, 20 years later, they've done a huge body of work, most of them.
Where did you learn to tell the story? So just as a aside, Jason has kindly worked with us on some music videos as we got back into music, and amazing, truly amazing. And so what stands out to me is just how you can tell the story. And do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah,
how you learned that?
I guess just having, the artistic eye when I was a kid, and things you grow up with and stories that were told by campfires and stories told by your elders, your grandparents and whatnot. I was able to visualize kind of their stories, like my grandmother working in the tobacco fields. Oh, what did that look like in Kentucky? What did she look like? And envisioning pictures that what she looked like when she was a kid, and just sort of putting a little storyboard into my head. So I think intuitively it was just kind of always there. I always thought visually. I was never a visual learner, or I was a visual learner. I wasn't book smart. So it just kind of, and I didn't realize it at the time. But I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
It was just, I could draw pictures that told stories.
Gift.
So I think it comes from that. I think it comes from family stories. I think it comes from, taking the art classes and telling a story in a painting or, a photograph, taking photography classes. And so then once I was in the editing world and with that edit house, you would watch and you would see, okay, so say for instance, the director had a concept for a music video like you guys did. And what was the name of the song?
Wayfaring Stranger.
Yeah, Wayfaring Stranger. We had a basic story, but we also had lyrics and you had to intertwine them to really create an emotion. And I think that came true and
Yes.
I
and
think it
really
did,
did
But it was
portray it properly.
really, so we had a vision, but
Yeah.
you kind of pulled that, because adding ballet dancer. I mean, it was so beautiful, and it was. To me, it really pushed the message that we wanted in such a beautiful way, and
and it meant a lot. It was heavy on your heart.
Yeah.
You two were going through some things, and trying to get that out of you, and I think it was accomplished very well.
Yes, we're very proud of it.
But again, getting back to storytelling, I
Yes.
think again it was just out of my youth and having experiences that you're able to parlay into the stories that you're trying to tell. Now they start with the advertising agency. They have the story, a storyboard that they've sold to a Fortune 500 company, say for instance Apple. And so they hire a director and they hire an editor and they team us up. The director goes and shoots it with the agency. Sometimes I'm on set, to sort of say to the director, oh, you got that shot. But most of the times I'm not. But prior to, you talk to the director and you talk to the agency and you kind of get inside their brains and you look at the storyboards and you look at some of the treatments that they provide you, which is what they kind of want it to look like, pictures from different things. And then you just start to formulate in your head. I like to just think about it and, formulate how I would do it. And then there's also I also formulate within the edit when you're pulling selects. Yeah. You're kind of putting the story together, as you're pulling, okay, that one isn't so charming. That one's a little bit too subdued. And so, you're thinking about that as you're pulling your selects and organizing.
I want to know about the football commercial.
Oh.
Sorry, I
You're
would
good, you're
interrupt
good,
you,
you're good.
but that's one of my favorite commercials.
Yeah.
And I think nobody was doing that.
No
one. And
no.
now everyone has copied. From ESPN has copied that. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. It was life-changing. I think I was 3 years into editing, so I was still sort of a baby in it. Yes. And this director he was looking for an editor to execute the story that had been purchased at Sundance. It was a short film that he actually shot it on really low resolution camera. The name of the commercial we're talking about is for Reebok. It's Terry Tate Office Linebacker, which was a Super Bowl commercial back in 2004, 2005. I can't remember, but it's been a while.
And didn't you get an award for that this year? It landed on a special list.
Well, I mean, yes, it was. I think on the Today Show or one of the morning networks where they listed the top 20 or top 30 Super Bowl commercials all time. So it's the it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
So he sold it to an advertising agency in New York, and the advertising agency said, well, let's make this into a Super Bowl commercial, and let's make this into some of the very first viral 2-3 minute videos. So it had a lot more legs. It aired and it won Can Lions, the Clio, the AIC award, which is in editing, and many, many more. So it was very good to me. The director, Rawson Thurber, ended up going to direct Dodgeball.
Oh, wow.
Central Intelligence. So he power-laid it into a very, very successful career. Great person, super smart. And I've stayed in touch with him over the years. Yeah. So we've collaborated on some enterprise car rental commercials. And so, that helped a lot in my world and my career.
It's one of my favorite all-time commercials.
Thank you, Deb.
It is. And
so
I hadn't
funny.
seen it in years. And when I heard that it got added to that list this year, I looked at it again. And it is just so funny because when I first got into Nashville to work, I worked in an office.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It relates to a lot of
Oh my
people.
gosh! Like you'd be walking by people, they'd be playing solitaire on their computers, and then the boss would come by and they're like, or just like people are nasty. They would take your lunch sometimes,
Oh my
and
gosh.
so I mean, I'm sure that's why it was so popular because a lot of people work in offices, and it's not easy to be around a lot of people from 9 to 5.
Yeah, and if you have the enforcer like Terry, then
Oh my gosh.
you're good to go.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. It was pretty.
Need to use a cover
Amazing.
sheet, Richard.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Janice.
I know, I love that. I just duking out the guy on the floor.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell, kind of how I started and how things grew. And then, from the Terry Tate thing, I've just gone on to do Apple and Nike. I've been fortunate to do the Burger King back in the day. Where that. And
were you in LA then?
Yeah, I was going back and forth between LA and New York City. I lived in both cities and just kind of whatever the job was, if it was based in LA or based in New York, I would go and do. But lots of car commercials. I love cars. Like I said, Fast and Furious kind of thing, luxury cars with music. And, sometimes there's a story tied into it, but a lot of times it's sheet metal. But after Terry Tate, I was doing a ton of comedy. But, my grandparents and my dad raced dirt track cars, stock cars. So that was always something I grew up with as well. And so the car commercials really made sense to me. And then, now just, visual things, viral things, the whole social media has really become a super duper important portion of the, the advertising. So it has to tie sort of in with the on-air commercials. And then, things are just kind of all over the place right now with editing.
Oh, sorry, Andy.
It's tough. I'm trying.
Yeah, I tell him he's got to be quick. Got to get in there.
All right.
Come on, Ange.
I'm curious as to the process. When you are done editing, you send to the director?
Used to be that way. Yeah, the director used to be more involved. But with the turnaround times now, not so much because, directors would, just whittle and whittle and whittle. And you have to get these things out sooner than later. With the technology now and, the internet and, Zoom calls and high-speed internet, you're able to send these files, like a gigabyte file, through the internet to the agency or to the client, and they get to review it. It used to be you had to send out the tape, and you get a couple more days to refine things, and that doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
Well, who makes the call on your edit?
Oh, yeah. So I'm sorry. The director used to be, but now the advertising agency, has to go to the head creative director, and then they have to send it to the client.
Right.
So ultimately, it's the client. It's the client.
Yeah.
It's Coca-Cola, IBM, whatever it may be. It's the client, because if you're not selling what it is that they want to sell, or not, you're not executing the message. That's not going to work for them. Nowadays, though, too, there's, factors. There's, where we look at the numbers of the hits or the numbers of the views and the numbers of things.
They look at that.
Yeah, so, they also look at that. And if it's not succeeding, you may have to re-edit it, or they may pull the commercial.
Really?
If it's not, when I would work for Apple Computers, Steve Jobs would have, we would do a full-on production, full-on edit, full-on color, full-on mix, sound design. It could go to air, and we would present on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and he would, they would probably spend $2-3 million, and if it wasn't up to his standards, he would just throw it in the trash.
Really?
Get rid of the media. Yeah.
Oh, that's brutal.
Something like that might have happened here on a different level. But,
So to answer your question, Andy, and it was elongated. The ad agency really, or I'm sorry, the client really is the one that.
I didn't know if there was an in-between stage, though.
Yeah, I mean, it does have to go up the totem pole. Right. I mean, I have to be happy with it, and then the advertising agency, like the creative team, has to be happy with it to give it to their boss, and if their boss likes it and thinks it's worthy, then it can go to the client, such as Coca-Cola. Or
so, have you ever had to fight for your idea?
That's a slippery slope.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, what I typically do is I give 4 different versions of the edit, and I try to make the agency folks, the creative team, think a little bit differently, so that maybe you uncover something that you didn't think about. Or sometimes when you're on set and you're shooting, you think something's funny or you think something is good, but until you look at it, the reflections, there may be something wrong. And so you have to show that to them, because they've worked really hard on this story. They've worked really hard on trying to get it to air, get it produced. So it's my duty and my job to make sure that they see the footage, that they get to try the different takes, that they get to see different options, so that we can really see it through and give it its due diligence.
That would be my next question. Like, what do you do when they don't get it or something goes wrong? So there's a funny story, and I already told both Jason and Ashley this story. But when I was telling my kids, who was coming they always want to know, who's going to be the guest? And so I told them you, and my 14-year-old twin boy was like, oh, I bet he doesn't want to ever see me again.
He wasn't 14 then.
No, he wasn't. He was little.
His first acting gig.
It was, and he was all excited, and all three of my children were going to be in it, and there was,
a music video.
It was for Silent Night.
Yeah.
And it was your idea to have little cherubs in there. And one was not acting like a cherub.
No.
Well, that was a tough shoot because you were the director as well as the editor,
Yeah.
and your son-in-law was doing all the videoing.
Yeah, he was the DP.
But you also did the set design
Yeah.
outside with Ashley.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we had weather
in our
issues.
forest. Yeah, in the rain.
Yes. And so what do you do in that instance where you're like, okay, this was such a great idea, but I didn't get maybe what I wanted because a little teeny weeny guy got a little upset or the rain.
And I couldn't reach him where I was sitting to like,
But the end result was beautiful.
I was going to say, he looks like a little angel.
Well, I mean, all it takes is 2 seconds of, perfection. I mean, it could be the worst shoot that you've ever been on, but if you find the little nuggets, you can usually come out with something, and then that's just my job. I mean, I fix a lot of things. I reframe a lot of things. I may have to cheat, like a take. We love the way it looked if it's a dialogue take, and I may have to use the dialogue from another take because it's got the right inflection.
I could see
So there's tricks of the trade that you pick up along the way, and the agency's looking to you. That's why they hire you for your creativity, and you're adding to the piece. You're adding to the final piece or the final edit. So. Yeah, you have to maybe reframe. You have to maybe add some sound effects to attract the viewer. There's a lot of different things that you have to do. So they're basically looking at you to save it. Like if it's a dog, if it's not what they expected because the director kind of dropped the ball. Yeah, it's always my job to make it better, make it the best it can be.
Yeah.
Really.
I've put up, little small videos of myself playing on YouTube.
Yeah.
If anybody's out there and I get to a point, I liked it. Yeah, the headless. I'm going to fix it. And I get to a point, just like messed it up. But I like the rest of it. And so I will stick something over there and mute the music there just for a second.
Yeah, I mean, cutaways are really, if somebody's talking on camera, cutaways really help, especially if you're telling a story within a music video, for instance. The cutaways, you can, just if it's a tree or a cloud and it kind of is within the theme of the song, and it adds maybe some somber feeling to it. There's ways to get around it. So, yeah, you just got to fix it. You just got to figure it out.
Yes. Because you've had to do a lot for us with that.
With those sound
I'm sorry,
I know
I
she
know.
is like the sound fiend.
Oh my.
Is there one thing, and it may not be able to just choose one, but that you're the most proud of, or the one that you're like, wow, this came out even better than I imagined?
Other than Wayfaring Stranger.
Yes.
Well, actually,
can't let go.
that is. I mean, from doing the directing and helping with the look of it and suggesting the black and white, and working with Deb and my crazy brain. Really proud of that one.
I am too.
We are too.
The way it looks, just the emotion that came out of that. Andy with his hat, and the guitar and the way that we shot
dressed
that.
me.
He did. He told me what to buy.
Yes.
He did. I'll never forget it. We went to this old store that sells in clothing
Period.
to look like the period
Yeah,
of
the period piece,
period
yeah,
we were
sure.
doing. And he called me just as I was leaving. He's like, this is what he needs to wear. And so I'm like having the ladies find this for us.
And the hat.
The
And the
hat
hat.
was
The hat.
key.
Yeah.
They
It
had
was
the
really
hats
cool.
there. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
What was
They
the
made the
name of that
hats.
store?
He looked amazing.
Oh, it'll come to me. It'll come to me. Crickets.
filling the dead space.
Flag, yeah.
Crickets.
Yes.
Was it Hat Works?
Crickets. There
No,
it
it
is.
was way in War Trace, Tennessee.
Oh, I see,
Like
I
way,
see.
way in the country.
Yeah, where they still wear those period pieces.
Well,
clothing?
their forte, the stores, they sell to a lot of movies.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
For people who in the Civil War. So that's
Yes.
mainly where they focus.
Okay. Yeah.
The hat that Tom Hanks wore in that movie that he did, and I can't remember the name of it now. It's going to kill me.
The gangster movie?
No, it was a Western.
Similar time period.
Gosh, I can't think of the name of the movie, but they asked for a hat, and he wore their hat in the movie.
A lot of movies go to this for that kind because they actually have the patterns from the
Oh, yeah,
1800s
right. Oh,
of these
wow.
little outfits.
Oh, wow.
And so a lot of the stuff that we wore were
Yeah.
actual patterns.
I didn't know
from-
that.
Yeah, it was.
But they
a
had to
pretty-
make them bigger because the people were so tiny.
Oh,
Yes, you
couldn't
yeah, I
afford it.
suppose they
Yes.
were.
Yeah.
Suppose they were.
They
Yeah.
were very tiny people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would say, yeah, that's one of them. But the ones that I am the most proud of are really the public service announcements.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, because it's heartfelt.
Yeah.
You know, it's most of the time it's coming from the heart, and it's trying to raise money and awareness.
Yeah.
So I would say there was this one that I did for the Holocaust, in remembrance of the Holocaust, where they had they were on a train, you know, a common day train, you know, like in a subway train, and all of a sudden it stops abruptly, and these dogs, these German shepherds, are barking.
Oh gosh.
And the people get out and they separate the kids and the women and the family, which is what happened. And then at the end, it matches to an actual frame from that time period, as best as it could,
Yeah.
of them putting, you know, Jewish people in the backs of trucks. Yeah. And so, you know, I mean, it really gives you chills.
Yeah, it
and,
does.
And so I would say those types of things that really create an emotion and make your hair on your arms stand up are the ones I'm most proud of, because it means a lot to me too.
Yeah.
You know, not that the larger brands don't matter to me, you know, because I want,
but
you know, if it's a Christmas theme, you know, with Santa Claus and Coca-Cola, you know, the ones that make you feel good.
Yeah.
But I would say the public service announcement, Elton John's AIDS Foundation I work for, Bill Gates, I've done some for them. The ones that really help people or create awareness, or even not to forget.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? So, I'd say that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Jason,
Yes, sir.
when did you move to Nashville, and was it directly from LA?
Yeah, well, I was living in New York and Los Angeles, and I had met my lovely wife, Ashley, passing through town from New York City to LA. I had some friends that had moved here, and I wanted to visit with their family and their children. And I didn't really know what Broadway was. I mean, I'd heard of Nashville, and I knew that it was, you know, had a lot of roots in country and country music. And growing up, I loved, you know, Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings and Kenny Rogers, the Gambler. So there was a lot of
Yes, me too.
Yeah, my parents were huge Johnny Cash fans.
You gotta love Johnny Cash.
What were the old tapes that went into the 8-tracks?
Yeah.
So 8-tracks
we
were
had those.
in the
Dad had
What
them
are you
all.
talking about?
Yeah. So, you know, just growing up in the car and riding, you know, country was always on. So I was aware of the country music world. But yeah, I went down to Broadway with some friends for dinner and turned around, and there she was. And she happened to be moving to Los Angeles in 10 days, which was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was going back, and then we dated and went to Hawaii and got engaged. And so shortly after, I'd say we stayed out there for another couple of years and worked in New York. And we ended up moving here, I believe, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that.
Wow.
And ended up getting married here. at the McConnell House in downtown Franklin.
Well, that needs applause.
So how long have you guys been married?
I think we just had our 10th anniversary. Don't quote me on that. But you know what? She's cool with us. We're both. Was it our anniversary yesterday? Oh yeah, I guess it was.
It was?
No. I'm just saying. Like if we miss it, it's not a big deal. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait a
I
minute.
have never had
very
that happen before.
Very black and white when it comes to my brain. I drive these two crazy. I think something like, what?
Yeah. So I think I'm certain we had our 10th last year, and so we moved here, and I've done some more some music videos for Lee Bryce and you guys. Yeah. In the past, I'd worked with Joan Osborne, Jewel, Jesse James Decker. So I've done a Joan. Did I say Joan Osborne?
I think you did.
Yes.
Yeah, did I? Oh, yes. And yeah. So I've done quite a few music videos, but primarily it's always been commercials. I would say doing a music video helps cleanse your palate because it's a longer form. Yeah. Because you're constricted to 60 seconds, or you're constricted to 30 seconds, or now some 15 seconds. So being able to do music videos, it's more. There's just a little bit more creativity. You can feather in the story, and it's 3 minutes or 3 minutes 21 seconds or whatever it is. So you can stretch things out, and I think sometimes like I said, it's good to cleanse the palate because you can let it take play. You can let it play for more than 2 or 3 seconds. Where within commercials, it's kind of got to clip along in order to tell the story. So I enjoy doing them. But yeah, so moving here, I've been introduced to a little bit more of the music world. But now I just do commercials virtually, or I travel to whatever city that they need me to go. A lot of it in Atlanta, again, LA, New York, Austin, Texas, wherever it is. I've worked in Switzerland. I've worked in Spain. Worked with Roger Federer on a Credit Suisse commercial over in Spain.
He's my voice on my ways.
Is he?
Yes, he gets me from place to place.
Is he?
And he's very chatty.
He's a very, very he's a gentleman. He's a very, very sweet person. He's very respectful. Sometimes you get these famous people on set and they're like, okay, I've got 2 hours. Get me in, get me out.
That's not nice.
I had an experience where Mike Ditka, the ex-football coach for the Chicago Bears, stormed off. I have a tea time. I have a tea time. I have to go to my tea time. Why am I still here? So sometimes you get that. Not often, but I would say Roger's.
Are you editing on the site, or
sometimes I have to? Yeah,
right.
I've sat in the middle of a cow pasture with a tent over the top of my head, with winds blowing on a fold-up table, and had the tent fly up in the air while I've been editing. Yeah, that was for I think that was either Chevy or Ram, where we were shooting cattle and the trucks were herding the cattle.
I saw that commercial.
Yeah,
that's a really good commercial.
Yeah, it was beautiful. But yeah, sometimes I am indie. Sometimes I'm, like I've done. I don't know if you remember the campaign. Chevy. It was Real People, Not Actors, where they would talk to people.
Yes, that was a cool one.
Yeah, so that was a series, and I was literally in a motorhome as they would shoot it, give me the hard drives, and wanted to see something by the end of the night. So.
Were they real people?
Yeah.
So it's not as glamorous as some people think. Just like the music industry is not so glamorous, not always glamorous.
Yeah, it's business.
It is business.
It's making a profit. It's selling a product. You have to take it super seriously.
You have to be professional, right?
Do.
Making a profit. What?
Oh, oops. Right.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
That might be where we differ.
Yeah.
So what does a day look like for an editor once you get the stuff you're supposed to be editing?
Yeah, I mean, you bring it in and you look at the storyboard. I sometimes paste the storyboards just up on the wall so that I can sequentially look at the story. And then I start going through take 101, and remember in my head the story and start pulling selects. And, like I said, if it's a dialogue piece, you might have 7 or 8 or 10 or 20 different takes of the same sentence over and over and over. And if it's comedic, if it's serious, you have to sort of find the right tonality for the piece. And then you just start putting together sequences of those takes. So I may have, if they shot 10, 20 different angles, or what we call setups, you have 20 different sequences of the takes and of that angle.
So how much footage are they? Like an
It just
hour
depends.
worth?
Yeah,
I mean, it's all different?
Sometimes I did a Hyatt campaign and there was 24 hours of footage once.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and so
Do you get paid more for that?
No, it's the same.
Well, now for our favorite segment.
Let's talk gear.
Yes.
Jason.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And
Well, you got your hardware, but let's go software.
oh,
What is your editing platform of choice?
Well, I can go back. We started on Avid, Media Composer.
Right.
Then things twisted to Final Cut Pro. And now it seems, though, that Adobe Premiere is used primarily throughout the business. I do know that Avid is used within a lot of the studios, Paramount and Universal and whatnot. But I think it's your preference, really.
Right.
What ones whatever you're more comfortable with, and then the support with it all. But Adobe, the Creative Cloud, it just, it ties in Photoshop, it ties in, an audio engineering program. It all sort of supposed to work
Nicely
together. Yeah. So the Adobe products seem to be what most people are using now. And if you take over, take over a project, that's something that's already started, and you're filling in for a week, or maybe you're finishing because somebody's schedule doesn't work. You have to know Avid, you have to know Final Cut. So the more you know different formats, the better.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you're using Avid at some capacity?
There is
Yeah.
the big Avid Pro Tools.
Yeah, Pro
near
Tools.
here.
Yes.
Yeah. So that works.
Yeah.
I think everybody's figured out how to make, it doesn't really matter. In my opinion, it doesn't matter what you edit on.
Oh, it doesn't.
As long, I mean, technically, yeah, but I mean the finished product, so I was telling some film students, they're like, oh, we don't have the best tech here. We don't have the best machines and this and that. And I said, it's what comes out of the machine.
Good answer.
It's whatever you.
Amen.
It's the craft. It's it's the craft and the human emotion and what comes out of it, and I think that sort of pacified them a little bit. Like, okay, I showed them some of my things that I had edited, and they were just like, okay, well, thank you. So that really helps out kids and college students when they're searching for what it is they want to do. Just making sure that they know that a simple laptop is okay.
And it's a tool.
It's a tool.
It's not the creativity.
No,
That's
it's
your brain.
It's just the apparatus that helps you export what it is that you're trying to communicate.
Yes.
And you say laptop, I'm assuming it's a Mac laptop. All you
Yeah.
Mac haters out there, take
Yeah.
it easy.
I love Mac.
Yeah, I mean, I've had several, what do they call those, uprights, computers, different sizes and forms. But the Apples or the laptops are fast enough now, and they are able to handle large files. And it's also, so if I need to go edit somewhere, it's easy for me to collapse it, bring the monitor, bring some speakers, headphones. It's just transportable. It's easily transportable.
What monitor? What size monitor do you?
Oh,
It just depends.
It's pretty big. Well, I mean, the one I use at home is probably, I don't know, maybe 36.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's
Right.
pretty big, and it's the concave one. So,
Oh, right.
so I can kind of sit sort of in a cubicle, and but it doesn't have to be very big. I mean, because it sizes to any format.
Sure.
But yeah, having a larger monitor for me with the actual images is helpful.
Do you think now that so much of the, whether it's a movie, whether it's television or commercials, people are watching them on their phone, do you edit differently based on what people are looking at it, or does it matter?
That's a really good question. I agree. Yeah, you do, and the director has to know. If it's a vertical format, you have to center things up, or else you're not going to get the image in the format. There's also the 1x1s, which is a square format, which is used in different, social media content platforms. So it starts with the director, right? Being able to frame it, and a lot of wide shots aren't really used anymore, like vistas, because it doesn't really communicate much, So I think that in a film, different, but if it's going to translate into social media platforms, you certainly have to center it up, or you can use like a little tracking program that will actually create a pan within the format, so you can kind of get, it centered up. You have to think about that when you're pulling selects too, because if you're going to have to create from the commercial social platforms formats for social platforms, you kind of have to pull a separate batch, and you may have to swap out shots in order for it to mean anything.
So I'm assuming then most of the stuff that's being shot with you're doing is in film format. It's not like vertical.
For the on-air stuff is usually
always hot.
Well, but you know what? Sometimes now we're integrating, the vertical formats and the square formats into the edits because it kind of drives people back to those social media platforms.
Okay.
So if younger or even anybody that's a huge social media user can see in the ad that those apparatuses are being used in conjunction with the film formats.
Because sometimes the social media pushes the commercial. Because that one, I can't remember if it was the Chevy truck.
Yeah,
but it was with the grandmother that had Alzheimer's, and it was the first time I ever saw it was on Facebook, and it went nuts because it was a small little movie. It was so I cried at the end of it. And then it just turned into this huge phenomenon. I don't think it was ever on TV until after it was a huge hit on social media.
Sometimes they launch it, prior to, say, the NCAA tournament or the Oscars or even now. So with the Super Bowl, they sort of pre-launch it, and just to get the momentum. But they really have to work in conjunction with each other. The broadcast has to work in conjunction with the social media. The social media has to, so it's, it's a back and forth to make a successful campaign. So you might get the viewer, your younger daughter might see something and drive you, and then you're watching television, you're like, oh honey, look at this one. It's creating the buzz, and it's just a different world nowadays than what it was when I first started. But I love growing with it as you do. Talking about gear and the latest technology. So same thing within my world.
I think the coolest thing about gear and technology is that if you've been on the planet long enough, things that were difficult or like, how am I going to do this? All of a sudden, you have these tools that you're like, well, remember back in the day when we had to do X, Y, Z?
A map.
Yes. But that kind of leads me up to the AI question.
Oh, boy.
I know a lot of people, myself included, feel like in the creative world, this can be maybe not so great. What are your thoughts with what?
No, that's a large subject. It's the wild, wild west right now, as far as I'm concerned. I think it was used in our national security. I think it does a lot of really good for us. Probably saves some of our electrical grids from going down and people that are trying to infiltrate our government. So I believe it's good in that. It's science. I think kids love robotics, so I think it's applied in that or probably is going to be. So it is exciting in certain worlds. In the creative world, however, it's kind of scary to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't like it.
There's these, editing AI programs that put together, an edit. Does it make sense? Does it have human emotion? I don't think so. I don't think it'll ever have the human emotion that it requires. Could it learn? I mean, the father of AI, who was on 60 Minutes not too long ago, says it can keep learning and learning and learning.
Yes.
So will it get to where it is with our human emotion? Probably not, but it could probably get close, and that's scary in my perspective. I mean, if you're shutting down the art, I mean, what's it going to do? Paint pictures next?
I know.
It probably is. Digital pictures. So my thoughts on it are, I think our government needs to be very careful on regulations within it so that, people have jobs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, and I know everybody wants to save money within their corporations and whatnot. So it could do some good in that world. But I mean, people need to eat. People need to raise their families. People need not to be super stressful because of those things. And I think that AI could lead to a lot of that.
I totally agree. And I think from the creative aspect that if we're letting machines or technology tell us how we feel, I think we're headed in the wrong direction. I mean, the thing is that even if it can learn, it can't experience. It's not human. And so I feel like from songwriting, from playing music to what you do, anything in the creativity, I think AI needs to go away.
Well, it is scary. It is. I think it's exciting for certain subjects like I mentioned, but within the creative world, it just doesn't feel right to me. It just feels like I'm being replaced.
Yeah.
By an
by
alien.
something. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is almost our creativity is our spirituality.
Yeah.
And so I don't really want to hear a machine's.
No.
I want to see and hear ours, like our heart and,
But for a lot of people, it's all about the dollar bill.
Huh.
Unfortunately. And I think sometimes we lose sight of the creativity because of the dollar bill and because of the bottom line and how much they're going to make. So I think it's blurred in that, we need people to advocate, for the creativity, for the artists, for the performers, and even the people behind the scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It all affects each other.
yeah,
So
the
I think
engineers,
we should give a huge shout out to Tennessee for what
Oh,
they
yes.
have just
Oh
done with
yeah, you
AI.
mentioned that. Tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that.
So this is pretty amazing. So they have basically created legislation that is going to keep AI out of songwriting. Just gone.
But within the state of Tennessee.
That is Tennessee.
So they could maybe work around
So
it.
every other state needs to follow suit.
Yep.
Because to me, creativity is humanity. And machines aren't human, and AI isn't human. And I think as humans, we should all be on the same page when it comes to creativity.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, and it should be yours too.
Yeah. The word according to
one.
Deb.
Yes.
That actually, Dad used to say that. Our dad.
Yeah.
It's just my opinion, but it should be yours too.
He also said no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he is.
He had some very funny sayings.
All right, here we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Jason,
Yes, sir.
client comes up to you. I shouldn't say if the money's the same or not.
Yeah.
No, let's say the money's the same. You have
Yeah.
a choice of being director on a commercial or editor.
Okay, so do I get to look at the content, the
Absolutely.
storyline?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a really good question.
Well, I would say, I'm not, I've only directed, a handful of things. I'd say being on set, so many times and working with directors, it's intuitive to me. I think it's very intimidating when you have 30, 40 people on set. But for me, I guess I'm just used to it. So it doesn't intimidate me. I guess it would be where I could lend my talents in the best way. So say, for instance, it's a special effects job. I know how to edit special effects. I know how to work the 3Ds. I know how to, comp things in properly and rough it in so that they can visualize what the final product would be. So if it was something like that, I would say, well, maybe let the special effects director or the people that are more versed in animation do that. And then I'd edit that. But if it was something I was passionate about, such as like the Holocaust commercial that I did, the public service announcement, I may want to take on that challenge,
Yeah.
Right.
And I also like comedy and the timing of comedy. I like dry comedy, like The Office and things of that nature. So if it was something like that, I would probably want to direct that. But I always like challenges, like when you guys came to me with Wayfaring Stranger, it's like, this is a challenge. I mean, I've directed a few things, but this is like, a ballerina, a story, sisters, a message, and all the other people that helped out around. I think we're really dialed into the song and believed in that video, and the result was, I think, like we said, successful, and we were all pleased.
Yes.
Yes.
So to answer that question, I guess it would just have to be, evaluated and what's best for the project. That's probably what I would do.
Yes, multi-talented.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Award-winning video editor, Jason.
And it's not easy to talk about yourself,
No, it can seem weird, but you've done a very good job.
But I would say one thing. I'd like to give back. I really enjoyed speaking to some of the film students at Belmont and this other smaller film school. So I guess if anybody can take anything from this, or want to learn more, they can get a hold of me. I don't know how.
How do they get a hold of you, Jason?
I guess they could just go to my Vimeo account and look Jason Painter Editor up.
There you go.
Happy to
We'll
answer
put your
questions.
personal cell phone and address up here.
It's on my Vimeo link, but I love answering questions, and anybody that wants to get into the visual arts or the arts, I think it's our duty as creatives and people that have sort of gone through the process and still do to give it back. That's always been something that's really important to me. It'd be really awesome if you lead the right life.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And I would have to say, from me personally, and I would guess the three of you would agree, is that just being creative is one of the most best blessings I've ever had in my life. It's just that I get to do that and do it with great people.
Yes, sister.
Yeah, and
You
work
do
with people
always
like you.
succeed.
Yes.
It's fun.
Yeah.
When it works, and you know it
Yeah.
works. When it's fighting against each other, it's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great that you three have this amazing bond with each other. It's a special deal. And that you guys have been doing it for so long together.
We have.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a testament. Yeah.
Yes.
I concur.
I concur.
I do too.
Where's the
Andy, you're a little off on that one.
Sorry, yeah.
Is there anything we left out that you think
Me?
people should know?
I don't know. I mean, my first dog's name was Omar.
Omar.
I mean, I lived on Lincoln. I mean, I grew up in a great family from south of Chicago, kind of country-ish, rivers, and that's really been what I've held on to through this whole journey is your core beliefs and your core from your family. So I'd say that that's super important.
Yeah, it is.
Family, friends, love, and giving back.
I love that, Jason. That would be a beautiful song.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes!
Oh my goodness. Well, Jason, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For
It was
spending
great.
time with
Jason.
us today. We really enjoyed it. Learned a lot of things, a lot
Yeah.
about you and about what your process is. And we're huge fans anyway
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
of what you do.
Yeah,
So
I'm
thank
a fan.
you.
Yeah, and back at you.
And just an amazing
you guys
friend.
are really cool.
Just to be able to have a great friend is awesome, but then a friend that can collaborate with us too, and we've learned from you. No, seriously, it's just been really awesome. And just for the three of us getting back to do this and then meeting someone like you has been really, it is, he's making faces at me.
No, I appreciate
we
it.
mean it. We did.
I know that. Yeah,
I really
appreciate
mean it.
And I appreciate you guys trusting me with your visions too, because that's not easy to hand that off to somebody that you don't feel you're driving with.
But it's all of them have been so beautiful, and they're all different. And, and just go with the music so well. We love it.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Jason, normally we would do a Yerbis toast with you and a chaser of Magic Mind. No, because we have a lovely pink bottle
we
of
do.
champagne.
It's beautiful.
That we want to celebrate something.
Oh,
What are we celebrating, Dad?
well, can I answer that one?
Dad. This is the first I've heard of it.
Yes, we are celebrating that this was launch week. And we just launched our podcast, Chicks with Gear, with the fabulous Amy. Yes.
Sound effect.
Yes.
Oh,
Chicks with Gear
Yes.
Chicks
on
with
YouTube
Gear.
if you want to see it via
Is that where
video.
you're gonna watch it?
You can watch
That's
it on
amazing.
YouTube. Eventually Spotify. We're figuring how to get it on Spotify for video. But if you just listen
Yeah.
You can hear us on every podcast platform.
Yes.
We are out there.
Yes.
Yes, go check us out.
Congratulations.
And if you wouldn't mind to subscribe, like, and share, we would absolutely love that. So, Andy, will you do the honors?
I was moving in too soon.
Is this a big toast?
This is a big toast.
This is the inaugural toast, Dave.
Okay, don't give me in the eye.
That was my.
Hot mic.
I can mute that.
He can do that.
Hey.
I will let you do the honor.
Marie-ish.
It is. It's so chicky.
Did you see that, the Academy Awards?
No.
Ryan Gosling singing that song.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I didn't watch it on the Academy Awards, but I saw it online. It was.
You're being very stingy.
Oh, sorry. Oh, all right. All right, well, cheers.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. What was that? What are these things?
It's going crazy.
Oh, I love that.
Wow. Cheers. Congratulations, you three.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you for being
Andy,
a
can
part
you
of
reach
our
me?
world.
Yes, sir.
Well, y'all, that's all we have for today. Thank you again, Jason, for being here.
Pleasure.
Absolutely. And until next time.
Don't you worry about it.